Hello and welcome to Dr. Erika by Design. Today on our show, I am excited to be joined by Dr. Heather Denniston. Dr. Denniston is a seasoned practitioner, personal trainer, and certified wellness chiropractor. She is passionate about helping audiences discover their wellness driver. That's a very interesting phrase that we'll get into. And she's passionate about bridging the connection between wellness and how you show up to the world every day. So, Heather, welcome to the show.
Erika, thank you for having me. I'm totally honored. I'm so excited to be here. I know it's going to be an amazing conversation.
Yes, I'm excited to have you. Excited to have you. Now, before we jump in, I saw a random fact about you that caught my eye. I know you're an avid, athlete, right? Is that correct?
I'm very active.
Okay.
I guess, yes. I get, I always encourage people to call themselves athletes, but it's always funny when you reflect it back on yourself because I don't compete or anything right now.
But you did in the past. And I saw that you did an inline skate marathon.
I know. Most people are like, huh? I know. You know what my favorite question is? They're like, I didn't know there's inline skating marathons. How long are they? I'm like, well, they're a marathon. So they're 26 miles.
Oh my gosh. I wish I would have known about something like that.
Right? Because the nice thing about an inline skating marathon, and one of the best ones is in Duluth, Minnesota, is that they are very approachable because it's not about finishing. Most people, if they skated a little bit, they can, with a little bit of training, they can get across the finish line. And so then you just work on speed. Whereas with a running marathon, you're like, can I even get across the finish line? And so they're a lot of fun and all ages. I mean, there were 80-year-olds and 14-year-olds and super fun. And so I did that for a few years. It was just great fun.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to have to look for one because I used to inline skate and I also trained for a half marathon. And
okay. So yeah. This would be great. And they still, COVID accepting, right. They're all over the place and a lot of Midwest, a lot of, because there's lots of flat roads. So yeah, they're fun.
You just introduced me to a whole nother world.
That's what this is all about.
Your work is done. No.
My work is done here. Let's wrap it up.
All right. I just had to bring that up because I thought that was so cool to me. So now that we've gotten my silly question out of my head, let's jump into a little bit about you, because everyone that I bring on the show, everyone has a journey. We all kind of have this winding road of how we get to where we are. And in the intro, we talked about you being a chiropractor in the past. Mm-hmm. So how did you go about going from having your own brick and mortar to kind of doing what you are doing now with coaching and consulting and speaking?
Yeah, so I had a brick and mortar for about 25 years. And about 2 years before I hit that 25-year mark, I started to get itchy. I was like, I need to be doing something different. I could feel it in my body. I didn't quite know what it was. And so I started realizing I had a passion and a complete draw toward writing. And so I started doing a bunch of writing and I started publishing a blog. And then as it kind of got closer, I realized I need to get out and connect with more people outside these four walls. And I was writing a lot on wellness and fitness and food and mindfulness and all how it pertained to how you show up professionally. And the reason I did that is because I was plopped right in the center of Seattle, right kind of in the sort of target center of Expedia and Costco and Microsoft and T-Mobile, and all of these corporate folks were coming in, and I was going, wow, I can actually tell where you work by how you show up on the table. And so the stress of, the hours we work, how much we sit, the pressure we have on ourselves really shows up in us physically and mentally and emotionally. And I wanted to speak to that. And so that's how I kind of transitioned out of walking into an office every day into walking into my living room and opening my computer.
Gotcha. So it sounds very easy when you say it. So it wasn't that easy then. So tell us kind of what was the process like,
Well, the process is still happening, my good friend. But as always, right? But no, the biggest mistake, I made a couple of big mistakes, and here they were. And I love mistakes because we just get such a great opportunity to grow within them. But the biggest mistake I made is I walked out of a brick and mortar and said, oh, I've been in business for 22 years, 23 years. I can just apply that to running a business online. Not true. And I took probably 18 months before I admitted to myself I had no idea what I was doing. And so that was unfortunate because I didn't surround myself with the right people early enough to make that shift a little bit easier. So that's for sure. And then also I wandered around in circles for a couple of years. I did some blogging, I published a little book, and I didn't find my stride for about 3.5 years. And then I really realized targeting down, niching down, much more specifically was the answer. And many successful entrepreneurs are like, that's what you got to do first. You got to get, niche down who your audience is going to be, figure out what problem you solve, and then go and solve it. And it took me a while to get there. So no, not easy or painless.
I find it funny when guests come on the show and I'm doing these interviews and I'm thinking that the guests are speaking to my audience, and it gets to me when guests are speaking to me, right? Because right now you're speaking to me because I'm in that. It'll be 1 year since I left corporate, April 29th. And I feel like what you were experiencing, like this whole year has been kind of like, this, I think I know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. Do I know what I'm doing?
Yes.
This sort of massive confusion.
Yeah. And I don't know if you dealt with this, but I identified as a chiropractor. And so I had to lovingly shift. Now I still see a few patients in my home, but I'm not a practicing chiropractor, but I just shift away and go, well, then who am I? And deal with that identity shift, which when we transition in life, we have to do business with that. And so did you struggle with that?
I struggle with it from the perspective of I have this degree, right? And now I'm not using it. What does that mean?
Yes.
Waste?
Yeah.
And then I struggle with like, well, okay, is there a way you can incorporate this into what you're doing? There has to be a way that you can incorporate this in somehow. And trying to force it.
Yeah. Yes. And really what I imagine you'll come to is that you already are. I mean, the skills that you use in becoming a PhD or a doctor or whatever your schooling is, your undergraduate or your business degree, no matter where you are, you're going to use it. My husband's a chemical engineer and he's in logistics. So, we all just take those skills and apply them just subtly to what we do, I think. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how I feel it happens.
Yeah. Yeah. So in those 1.5 to 3 years where you're still trying to figure it out, right? How did you stay the course and not say, screw this, I'm going back to my brick and mortar?
Gosh, that was a daily decision. I think, getting up and just going, I really had to tap into where my heart was, what was bringing me joy, and just kept recommitting the idea that I had something to give to this population of people I wanted to influence and impact. And it was tough. And so, I think it's getting clear about, short and longer term goals so that you can have some wins under belt so you can keep moving forward. And that's just kind of what I keep coming back to. And then definitely surrounding myself both with people who know me and who help me know that I'm still on the right course. And then mentors and teachers who are like, no, you got this, just do this next. It's the right next step, right? Whatever is just that next step that you can take to keep going in the right direction.
Right. I love that. You brought up 3 points that I talk about a lot, knowing your why. And I always tell people it's not just that surface, that quick brain why, because we're quick to think of something really rapidly. Like I want a house, but like, what's the why under that why?
Yeah.
Under the why. And then having those people in your corner to be your cheerleaders, your motivators, can I run this by you? Does it sound okay? Does this make sense?
Yes.
And definitely on a daily basis. It's keep telling yourself. So I love that. So if you're an entrepreneur out there listening and you're just starting, you're not alone. Mm-hmm. We've all gone through it. We're still going through it, and we're going to work through it together because we know that we have something bigger that we're put on this earth to do. So.
Yeah. And the greatest strides you make is when you're being coached by, the right people. And it's amazing what you can accomplish when you have the right people, speaking in experts where you are not expert. And it's huge, the strides you can make. And I think it's worth mentioning, it's worth investing in. And I think that's a mistake I made when I first got out, is I was afraid to take this sort of nest egg that I had sold my practice with and start distributing it into my business. I wanted to cling to it. But as soon as I started investing in some coaching and some expert people who, like you have your husband who's a graphic designer, I needed to pull some of those kinds of people in to do stuff I couldn't do. And you had to, there's a financial exchange there that you have to get comfortable with.
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a minute, right? Because there's, at least when I was in corporate, I wasn't too familiar with coaches, right? And then you come out and there's this range of coaches where you can get a coach that's $95 for a year to, $10,000 for a week. And there's a business coach and there's a strategy coach. How'd you go about finding that right coach or consultant to help you?
The first thing I knew I wanted to do was get better at speaking. And so I sought out a speaker coach and I asked around and I kind of followed them for a while and kind of see if what they were doing really resonated with me. And you know what, so many folks, including you and I, have some free resources on our websites and on, and so start digesting those first and feel if you're getting some gains, then perhaps the next step is an actual investment in that person.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I didn't do that. I will tell you, don't do this, people. I just kind of jumped out initially and I don't even know how I found my very first coach, but I didn't do any research. So that is great advice to start actually following these people and seeing kind of what they can do for you.
Yeah, I think just, being real and honest about where the holes are, like where you are soft in your entrepreneurial journey and looking for that.
Right. And I will say sometimes I think this is something I thought about, or I didn't necessarily think about when I got out of corporate, is sometimes it's going to take more than one coach.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah. Yes, for sure. And in fact, I'm coaching with two different people who do very different things right now. And it's a huge help to where I'm at in my business right now.
Love it. Yeah. I'm in the same situation. I have two coaches and people are like, you're a coach, you have two coaches?
I know. Isn't it funny? I remember when I was a chiropractor, a lot of patients were like, you just got back from an adjustment. Why do you get adjusted? It's like, oh, we all need attention physically, mentally, emotionally. And I always used to joke because I have to work on you people all day. So
that's funny. Okay. So now let's talk about the people that you're helping now, who you were called to help. Tell us a little bit about the business that you've created with Well Fit and Fit. I love that title, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Well Fit and Fit's the overarching company name. I do a blend of public speaking and then working more intimately with typically businesses of about 100 or less. I go in and work with the owner and the executive team, and we really work on just bridging that connection between personal well-being and professional success. And that looks like everything from productivity, habits, confidence. We spend a lot of time uniquely talking about how their nutrition and fitness plays a role into how they can propel professionally, how they can be more effective as leaders. And that's something that a lot of people don't think about, is the bag of chips that they're staring down on a Sunday affects how you show up for negotiations on a Wednesday. And making that connection for people that you are your greatest asset. And if you're not investing and honing and improving that greatest asset every day, then you're getting less than your purpose is calling you for.
Yeah. I love that you touched on so many things in that, because you said, wellness and your well-being is you talked about productivity and habits, and most people don't think about productivity and habits when it comes to wellness. How do you?
Yeah, well, I mean,
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, we talk about flow through the day. So when you get up and you show gratitude and you move your body and you eat something healthy, and then before you go into work, you set some intentions for the day and you do a deep breathing practice, you are going to come in and be so much less stressed. And then if you have systems in place that make your day run more smoothly, and you're not constantly putting out fires because you pre-decide how your schedule is going to go the night before, productivity tools are going to directly reduce stress, which is directly going to impact our well-being.
Right. Now, I can see somebody saying, Heather, that sounds like a lot. That's a lot for me to do.
Yes. Well, and it's just examples, right? And my biggest thing is pluck the low-hanging fruit first. Are you hydrating? Are you sleeping? How are you fueling your body? And are you moving at all during the day? Let's pluck some low-hanging fruit, implement, sustain, and then we add the next thing. And it's just a layering approach. And it can be very systematic and much easier than most people realize.
Right.
Especially when you see the results. So.
Right. Well, that's a big thing, right? A lot of times, especially when it comes to wellness, it can be a slow process.
So. It is a slow process and it's a long game. And, I typically take clients on by application. And if they can't get that head wrapped around not having a super quick win, I have to do a lot of educating, or I send them just to a different direction, because wellness is a long game. It's a journey, not a destination. And we're constantly tweaking with each age that we reach. We have to shift and change a little bit how we're approaching things. And, but it's absolutely doable and the rewards are huge.
How, when you have someone that's not used to thinking about the long-term goal, is there one thing or a key thing that you can share that can help them sort of switch their mindset to looking at it?
I do two things. So the first is I go through a process of having them sit on a park bench with their inner elder and go through a series of questions and listen to what their inner elder, their 80-year-old person who they're going to be at some point, how they respond.
I say the rocking chair. I haven't heard the bench before.
So, what do you need from me? What do you need me to be doing right now so you can be at your best at 88? That's the first conversation that happens. The second thing that happens is I take them through a process where I show them a photograph that's black and white. And it's a cool photograph of kids playing soccer in a meadow, and there's a soccer ball and the boys are jumping, and it's great. And if that's all you knew, you'd say, this is a pretty cool photo. Then I show them the actual photo, which is this full color, incredibly vibrant, amazing photo. And I take them through the process of understanding that very often every little decision we make is either moving us toward this black and white version of our life or a full color version. And so starting to look at simple choices as, oh, I still have access to a full color life, which many people mistake. Oh, I'm 50. I can't do that because, I'm old, right? We still have huge access to a full color life. And also to recognize that little tiny decisions they make are moving them in one direction or the other. So instead of going, hey, this is how you prevent cancer and heart disease and osteoporosis and all those things, I work on a lot of saying, hey, this is how you see a sunset differently and how you will be able to climb there to see it. And that creates an optimized life that is incredible. So if we can focus on, oh no, this is going to affect me today. Even what if I drink a glass of water today, all of my functionings, all of my senses are going to be working better. And I'm going to take in and experience my life in a totally different way.
I love that black and white and full color picture analysis. I'm gonna have to incorporate that into my life.
That came to me. So both my parents had brain cancer, which is strange. My dad passed and my mother survived, but only to die of a different type of cancer down the road. So a lot of people think I have a passion for what I do because of preventing cancer and the big players, but it really isn't. It's more about the very acute realization that things can change on us in a moment, and you only have this moment. And so I want it to be as big and beautiful and colorful as possible. And the only way to do that is to optimize this beautiful body that comes with us and this mind that takes us through this journey of life. And how do we optimize that so it's functioning as highly as possible so we get the best possible experience?
Yeah, I love that. Now you primarily work with organizations, right? And you said they're executives. Is that what I
heard? Typically. Yeah. So for a while I was working with bigger corporate. So I speak with Microsoft on occasion and have done some other bigger corporate. And I found that as I started to connect with smaller sized companies, I found myself being more effective and I was more in my zone of genius. And so I find that when I can work with the leadership, there's a drip down effect that affects a lot of the rest of the organization. And so that to me was like, how can I create the biggest impact? We'll start with this leadership team and helping shift their perspectives, and then they start to connect with their teams on that level as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I asked that question because I want the audience to know that a lot of you guys are entrepreneurs or, why can't I think of the word? Not wishing to be entrepreneurs, but you get what I'm trying to say. You're not an entrepreneur yet.
Yes, I do. Yes, not wannabe, because wannabe almost makes it sound like you're not going to, but it's like, you're prospecting the idea. Exactly. Up and coming. I like that.
So I want you to understand that as an entrepreneur, you can still think about this mindset because you are the business and you may have a team, and how you're showing up in your business as the owner, as a CEO, can have an impact on how your team functions as well.
Absolutely. And for sure. And I think as entrepreneurs, we should always be operating as if, okay, when we're going to have a team of people, when we grow to the point that we do, so we operate as if, how am I going to act? Mm-hmm. Well, if I need to organize this team of people, and if I need to be, 100% and I'm managing people, I think having that mindset of, okay, what's this going to look like 5 years from now? Well, I envision I'm going to have a VA and I'm going to have a graphics person and I'm going to have a marketing person. Then you operate as if. And so I think that's, one of my coaches actually has me do a spreadsheet of tasks, and then they have us assign a task. Well, if you're your own person, you're under every single task, but getting in the habit of assigning the work tasks gets you in the mindset that, well, one day this is going to go to my VA, that will go to my graphic designer. And so I think that's a great tool to think about as you're starting out. Just, operate as if you're, a bigger business and what that's going to look like for you in a few years.
Yeah.
I loved, I think it was Malika on one of your, no, it wasn't Malika. It was the Bermuda gal.
Oh, that was
and
Erika.
She was talking about this vision she has for herself at 50 about her house and what the bottom of her house is going to be functionally as her business, and what she had that teased out beautifully. And I think we don't spend enough time sitting and visualizing and journaling. You're not a journaler, but you said that on one of your last things. But those of you who are journalers, or Erika, I know that you do it with OneNote or whatever, spend some time envisioning what that looks like.
Yeah. You are making me so happy right now. You're just shocking me because you know some of the things that happened in the past. I love it. But yeah, I agree with you that a lot of us don't spend that time. And I think sometimes we don't take those moments to journal or to do forward reflection because we're so caught up in the go of our business and our life.
Yeah. And everyone who's listening, who's got an entrepreneurial journey, we know there's a million things always to do. And so it's very easy to get just in the weeds. And well, I'll tell you right now, you're looking at a hotel room. I'm in Bisbee, Arizona, which is this tiny little mining town. It's taken over by hippies and artists. And I came here and did a 5-day writing retreat, which included self-inflicted, which included visioning time. We have to create space for that. We have to create space to get out of our daily and go, whoa, what am I doing? And is it still relevant? Do I need to change course? Do I need to keep going? What resources am I lacking? What's working? What's not working? That's tough to do, when you're posting to Facebook and you're writing an email to pitch somebody, we got to get out of it and take some time to do that.
Right. And that's, that's actually kind of going down the road of something I want to touch on, because now you're talking about clearing up your mental, right? Giving yourself mental clarity, giving yourself a little bit of a mental break to tap into that creativity, to tap into the true understanding and vision that you have for yourself. And I wanted to touch on this topic of mental wellness, right? I don't like the term mental illness. Mental wellness. How does, I guess, the wellness that people think of and mental wellness tied together? Because I think oftentimes they're separated. Does that make sense?
No, it totally does. Okay. And I think, this is going to air, a few months after we've recorded it. But what I'm seeing with my clients is that we are in a situation of what I call CPTSD, COVID post-traumatic stress disorder, right? People have been locked down, they've been isolated, they've been lonely, and it's creating an incredible, I'm not going to use the word pandemic, but you follow what I'm saying, in depression and anxiety and all of these things. And what a lot of times folks don't connect, like you just alluded to, a lot of times mental health is over here, and then like physical health is over here, but the two are deeply interconnected. And so if we aren't addressing how we fuel our body, what we feed ourselves, how we move our body, which is the best way to move through anxiety, and how we put stillness in our life and all of those practices that we think of as kind of physical well-being, if we don't address those, then the mental aspect that has a really hard time moving in a positive, in a healing direction.
Mm-hmm. How do you think, I want to make sure I word this correctly. Do you think people often miss the signs that they need to take that break? Like you took today.
Yeah.
How do they not?
Yeah. So sorry, I'm just gonna have a little bit of water. Excuse me.
I'll have some water with you.
Here we go. Speaking of hydrating. So yes. So when I initially start with a client, we do a big intake, and it's very reflective of where we need to start working. And I will say many, many people underrate their stress and overrate their well-being. And so when we start working and we start kind of holding up a mirror and saying, okay, so how's that 65-hour work week working for you? How are you connected to your family? How do you feel in the morning when you get up? These kinds of things, they start to go, ooh, yeah, you're right. My stress is maybe more of an 8 or a 9 than a 6 or a 7. Mm-hmm. And so I do think there's a lack of recognition. Also, we know that busy is a social status symbol, and I think we're only just starting to come into understanding that, okay, that's not sustainable. And you know who's really good at this is millennials. They have, I find that age group and below, they have a sense of balance, which I just love that. I love talking to them about like, where did that come from? And this idea of, they don't love the idea of the rat race. And so I think that's really key.
Huh. That's interesting. Because now I'm wondering, like, what is it? Is it because of how we were raised?
Yeah, I wonder if they saw their parents or they saw, older folks just killing ourselves. I can remember when I first started practice, a 14-hour day was common for me. And all the way through Saturdays, and I'm running a business and I'm running a practice, and this is what just needs to happen. And I think it's very easy to fall into that. But again, then when we come back to that full color experience of your life and that you only have this moment, what do you want that to look like? Right. And then, too, if we don't recognize where our well-being is at, we are not as effective as leaders, like we alluded to at the beginning of our session today, is that awareness and thinking I'm the greatest asset that I have for my journey through my professional life. I've got to make sure it's at optimum condition.
Right. Yeah. Now I'm going to have to look at millennials again. I'm going to have to dig into that a little more to see what's going on there. But yeah, I like that. Now you mentioned, I mentioned in the beginning, the phrase wellness drivers. Now, have we touched on them at all? Is it something that we haven't touched on yet? So explain to us what the wellness drivers are, because I'm curious.
Yeah, you bet. So, well, yes, we have, but I'll tell you a story to illustrate my definition of a wellness driver. So, and I'll use the word wellness why as well. You're big on the why word. And I think we all have time to spend on discovering what that is for us in all the different aspects of our life. But for me, when I was in practice, I was noticing that patients were missing something very key. And it was this. They would come in, they'd be like, well, I worked out for a couple of weeks and then I don't know, maybe I don't have enough willpower. Maybe I don't have enough motivation. I can't stick with it. And I realized they were missing a deeply moving wellness driver. The why behind, why are you eating differently? Why are you exercising? Why are you starting a meditation practice? And there was one experience I had that really demonstrated this well. And I was working with a corporate team and we were all sitting around and I dispatched them to do their wellness driver very first. That's key. And so they're all working pen to paper, and down the end of the table, this gal, Julie, and she's just looking around at everybody else's paper and at me and smiling. And I go down and it's a blank piece of paper, but there's one line at the top and it says to be healthy. And I said, oh, Julie, is that your wellness why? And she said, yeah. And I said, but why? And she said, what do you mean? I said, go deeper, but why? And she said, oh, I don't know. I guess I want to be independent when I get older, but why? Because I don't know. I guess I want to be active, but why? And we went back and forth like 7 times, and the entire team had put their pens down and they're staring at us. And all of a sudden her whole face changed and she looked at me and she said, because I don't ever want to tell my 2 grandsons that Noni can't do that. I said, that's it. That's the why. And so with that wellness driver, that's what got her out of bed every morning at 6 to go for her walk. She wanted to be able to get down on the floor with her grandkids, and she had that visual and that why and that driver to help her keep consistent with the wellness choices she wanted to be making. Because sometimes it's boring. Sometimes it's a grind to get up and work out. We know that. And if we don't have that tailwind pushing us, then it makes it very, very difficult to be consistent, which is the key. A little bit every day is much better than like, I did it once this week for an hour, but I did it once. I'd much rather 5 minutes every day than an hour of anything, once a week. So that's how I define wellness driver. And when it comes into professional folks, a lot of times they haven't thought about that. And that helps them start to see that connection in sort of personal wellness and professional well-being.
I'm going to have to think about my wellness driver now. And
it's lucky you asked that, because that's if it's okay with you, I have a wellness driver PDF that I'll make accessible to you and to anybody who's watching or listening, because it is a process. You have to answer a bunch of questions before you can kind of dig down there. And if it doesn't squeeze your heart or bring a tear to your eye, you're not there yet. And so you have to keep going. Why? And it's a great process. So yeah, I'd love to share that with you guys.
Oh yeah, definitely. That would be great to have. And we'll put that in the show notes for you guys as well.
Sure.
And as I'm thinking about this, there's a question I should have asked at the beginning when we started, because we're talking about the wellness driver, we're talking about the why, but how do you actually define wellness?
I define wellness as having access and choice to just about anything that you want to do. Because what happens is, as we start to lose our wellness, we lose independence, we lose choice, we lose availability of the world to us. So for me, wellness is having access to all the things I want to do, all the adventures I want to go on, all the travel I want to do. And really it's a math equation. It's once those numbers start to decrease as far as how well I am, I don't get to shove my bag in the overhead bin. I don't get to put some soil on my shoulder and go out and garden, and those things bring you joy and passion. And so the end result is, I don't want to see my joy and passion dim. And so wellness is defined as anything that helps keep me optimized to do all of those things that I want to be doing.
Gotcha. Well, I just had a whole little flash forward in my head of some wellness things that I need to take care of, because I want to be able to continue going to Comic Cons and being able to walk around the Javits Center all day.
Exactly.
In my cosplay. So
no, I know when you were talking to the heavy metal yogi on one of your previous podcasts, you guys talked about Comic-Con, and she said what she dressed up as, but you didn't say what you dressed up as.
Oh, well, I've had several
Do
costumes.
you?
So
I love that. So if they opened up and you could go in a month to one of the Comic Cons, what do you think you'd dress up as?
Well, considering I don't have a cosplay ready, if I had a magic wand and I could just magically make it. Do you remember the movie Mad Max Thunderdome? Beyond
yes.
Turner in that.
Oh, yes.
So Auntie Entity is my dream cosplay.
Okay, that's awesome.
That I want to do. So that's what I would do. That's my dream.
That's great.
So I need to stay well so I can actually fit into the costume.
See, that's a great example, and exactly.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that PDF with the audience. That's going to be great.
Of course.
That.
Yeah.
I saw something also random on your Clubhouse account. And yeah, I saw you're on Clubhouse.
I am on Clubhouse.
What do you think so far about Clubhouse?
Truth-telling time, Erika.
I
don't love it. I don't love it. I feel often like I need to just have a moment after I leave there, just take a breath. I think they've got some work to do. I think it's a great idea. And I think there's certainly been some of my really big mentors in my life that I've been able to get in a room and even get on stage and ask them a question. And that's been amazing. But I feel like the userability of finding a room that pertains to you, finding the other people that you're connected to on Clubhouse has a long way to go. But I'm not abandoning it. Yeah. As you see, I have an actual profile there. That took me a while to get that up.
I'm there with you. It's still a work in progress. I'm still trying to figure out if I like it, don't like it. I don't know.
I know.
But on your page, you had something called a stress insanity check. What exactly is that referring to, Heather?
I did? Yeah. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm going to have to go back and look at it. I'm going to look at it right now. Oh, that's hilarious. A stress insanity check. Yeah. Okay, Erika, seriously.
Oh,
that's so funny. And I wrote my profile.
Is it there?
I got lower stress and build resilience.
Did I
don't know.
Heather?
Well, isn't that because we were talking before about how when I was reviewing some of your podcast history, it was 3 episodes in, I realized I was on the wrong podcast. And so I was listening to somebody who had a very different platform and I was in a full-blown panic. And then I'm like, oh, wait, wrong Erika. Over to the other Erika. And I'm like, okay, yes, this makes more sense.
Yes, I have
so funny.
Heather. I could have sworn I thought there. Well, never mind with that question. Then we'll just skip that. That's life.
Oh, that's totally okay. Well, the stress insanity check. You know what? Let's answer it. Okay. So the question is, how do I define, like, how do you assess stress and sanity? Yeah. Is that the question?
Yep.
Because I'm going to just answer it off the cuff. Okay, sanity, I'm going to answer first. And for what comes to mind is resentment. And so I find that when we are not holding clear boundaries and we are not honoring ourselves and the time we need, we start to percolate some resentment to other people, to circumstances, whatever that is. And I think that's skirting the edge of when we're kind of not in our right minds. We're not full sanity. It's because we are designed to take care of ourselves as we move through this world. And when we're not doing that and we're acting with a cavalier attitude about our sleep or what we put in our bodies for food, there's a dissonance there, and that is hard to correct if you're not going to be aware of it. And I think the stress piece is also essential, and just being aware that stress shows up in all sorts of different ways, from a rash to fatigue, to all sorts of things that aren't just irritability and I feel stressed. And so recognizing that stress is a chameleon, it's different for every person, and it can manifest in ways that you may not immediately recognize.
Yeah. That was a great off the cuff answer.
Thanks. And you know what's funny is I'm going to probably go back to Clubhouse and read down and go, oh, that's what she was talking about, but I didn't see it on first blush.
That's okay. That's okay. You know, it's funny that you're talking about stress and manifesting in different ways, because one thing that I tell my clients or suggest to some of them is start tracking what's happening in your life. Because a lot of times they say, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm so tired. Well, look at where you're spending your energy. Look at where your stress is coming, and then start to make adjustments based on that. Because I think a lot of times we just don't track what's happening.
And I think, I think that's key. And then also I've had lots of conversations, you know, I learned when I was very young, I was 15 and I had terrible cystic acne. It showed up all of a sudden, and I went to a dermatologist and I said, you know, I'm not stressed or anything. He said, what were you doing 9 weeks ago? I said, 9 weeks ago. So I kind of looked it up and I'm like, oh my gosh. He's like, stress takes a while to come out of the body. So 6 to 9 weeks, look back at what was happening. And I've always used that with folks too, because sometimes they're like, stress is over. Like, yeah, Christmas was crazy, but I'm good now. And, you know, and it's like, well, it takes a while to percolate out of your body. And so recognizing that as well as what's happening in the now.
Wow. I had never heard that.
I know. I thought that was really... Yeah, he was just like, that's for your skin. That's when stress comes out. And so it's just kind of like, ooh, I earmarked that, going, I bet that's true in our bodies for lots of different stressors, right? It's just going to come out later. It often comes out when your body's able to rest. Like, I'm sure you had a million exams to write, and many of us after exams, it wasn't until after we got sick. And that was super common because your body held up during the time it needed to. And then when there was a break, it just collapsed.
Right. Ooh, okay. Something to keep in mind, guys. Something to keep in mind. So one thing you just mentioned was boundaries. So I want to get into kind of like understanding how you as an entrepreneur form boundaries for yourself, because you are your boss. You know, you're in control.
Yeah. I say no a lot to, I really put things up against a litmus of, do I want to do something? You know, if I'm being asked to do something, do I want to actually do it? And is it aligned with what I'm working on right now? And so I think many times we have flimsy boundaries, and flimsy boundaries may result in us saying yes too frequently. And then we're like, why can't I get any of my work done? And because we're obligated in other areas. And so that's one thing. And then I am very disciplined, but I also have practices throughout my day that just keep me on track. So the day before, plan out my whole day. For the next day, I have a weekly tracker that I fill out on Sundays of like, here's what I want to do on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. And so I do have structure and framework in place to help keep me in line. I think too, as an entrepreneur, and I don't know if you found this when you left your company, did everyone think you were just sitting at home with your feet on the coffee table? Because that's what people thought about me. They're like,
now that I'm
but you're retired, right? I'm like, no, I'm not retired. I'm moving into another business. And suddenly they thought I had all this free time, and, you know, and so just helping educate folks about what the entrepreneurial lifestyle is really like. It's not like you put in 2 hours and then you're out kite surfing. Some people they've achieved that, and yay, but many of us are putting in long hours. We love what we do, and we really want it to succeed, and we want to help the people we want to help. And so, we do have to have boundaries, you know, so that and I think too, boundaries saving from ourselves, like, because do you fall subject to working late into the evening, or just not having, like, sometimes you're like, ooh, I'm working a lot. Like, I need to dial it back a bit. Do you have that?
So when I first left corporate, like for those probably first 6 months, I think I was working every day because, you just left, you don't have a paycheck per se. And it's like, I have to get this done. It has to work. It has to work. So I have to work so many hours. And then I hit burnout, right? Really quickly.
Yes.
And you start to reassess, okay, you left corporate for a reason. You left corporate so that you get, create your own life. Why are you creating this life that is completely hectic, completely stressful? And then you kind of take a moment and you start to think about those questions, am I doing things that I really want to do? Do they align with my values? And then, do I even have the capacity to do this in my life and still have time with my husband and to go to him and things like that? So I think I did.
And I think you brought up such a good point, those transitioning out of corporate. And I have a good friend, mentor, who I connect with quite regularly. She was a Microsoft C-suite person, then moved into executive. The deprogramming she had to do in regard to only sleeping 4 hours a night, not believing she had value unless she was putting in 60-hour weeks, because that's what she'd been told, and recognizing when her body said enough. And so I think those of you out there who are transitioning, or maybe you're doing both at the same time, you're still working a job and you're starting to get your entrepreneurial vision off the ground, just have to be aware of that.
Yeah. And I think one thing that I started to bring back into my life recently is just having things that are just non-negotiable, right? That are just, they're going to happen for me because I need them for me.
What's one of your non-negotiables?
I need yoga and dance in my life. That's the bottom line. I love it. Like yin yoga.
I love it.
And dance. And I need to be able to, people talk about like their morning routines. Which I get. But for me, I don't like saying I wake up at 6 and I read this book and I do this. It's more about the outcome of what I'm getting.
Yes.
So I need to have snuggle time with my husband.
Nice.
And so those things are non-negotiable for me. The gym, my snuggles, and
That's awesome. For me, I'm an introvert, and so respecting the alone time that I need to process through my day and my work and my interactions with people, I definitely have to respect that. And for me, movement is a non-negotiable as well. If I don't move 60 to 90 minutes every single day, I'm not at my best.
Yeah, exactly. And I think sometimes even we have to be okay with telling the people around us what our non-negotiables are.
Such a good point. And the funny thing is most of the time they're fine with it. It's you who is like freaking out that they're going to be upset that you're going to be a half hour later because you're going to stop at the park and walk. Most time when I'm working with clients, I have one gal who's a school nurse and she just had so much trouble getting movement into her life. And we talked about there's a park on the way home, stop, get out of your car, loop the park, get back in your car and get home. She fought me tooth and nail on it. Oh, my daughters and my husband and blah, blah, blah. None of them cared. They were like, yeah, okay, sounds good. And so I think that is essential. And, we know this, we're our own worst barrier, and the non-negotiable aspect of your wellness care and plugging that first into your day before you plug in all of your work that's the key to the win.
Yeah. All right. So I want to ask you a future forward question.
Oh.
When it comes to your business, what are you most excited about now that's coming up for you?
What I'm most excited about is that I finally, in the last 18 months, found people who could help me define my ideal customer and define what WellFit, the next direction of WellFit and Fed, because you can't see the label on the bottle you're in. And so I really needed people to speak to that. And I really found some great folks who've helped me do that. So I think I'm excited about knowing who is and who is not a potential client very clearly. And I'm excited about a new program that I'm putting together as a result of that, called the Wellness Amplifier Method. That's a 12-week program to take executives and their teams through. And it feels good to just kind of be developing a new curriculum and putting together what's sort of I've been working on for a long time, and just kind of giving it some legs and some structure.
Yeah. When is that program going to be expected to be ready?
Are you going to hold me accountable? I hope you will.
Okay.
So if I say, I hope all of you will. So I'm going to say that is going to be launched by September.
By September. I'm going to put this into my project next school. September 1st, launch program.
I think you said, you were talking to somebody else about this on a podcast, Asana? Is that what you, no, you left Asana.
Yes, I use ClickUp now. I am a
ClickUp
girl all day, every day. ClickUp, if you're out there, you need an ambassador, like that's me.
That's hilarious.
So I'm going to put that in there. And I'm with you. So that's awesome.
I'm part of a mastermind through, I don't know if you've heard of Todd Herman or the 90-day year, but it's a great program. And I'm part of a mastermind, and several folks have been talking about ClickUp.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Great. If you haven't tried it yet and you want to try it, let me know. I'll be happy to walk you through whatever you need to walk through.
Awesome.
So we'll be excited to hear about your program.
Thank you.
I love that you talked about finding your ideal client and knowing who is and who is not, because I think that's something that a lot of us struggle with, and it takes time. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, it does take time.
Yes. Yeah. Awesome. Well, our time always goes by so quickly.
It does.
But as you know, we can't wrap up without having the Fab Four.
Oh.
So Heather,
okay.
Are you ready?
I think so.
Okay. It's going to be easy, I swear.
Okay.
All right. First question. What's the strangest food you've ever eaten?
Barnacle.
Wait, what? Did you say barnacle?
I did.
Like, okay.
So
what comes to my mind is goat barnacle?
Yep.
Okay.
And so in Portugal, it's a delicacy. And it's served in every restaurant. And I'm like, I'm not leaving Portugal until I have me some barnacle. And it's gross. And it's really hard because you have to take the little shell and you have to push it a certain way so it comes out like a little lipstick, and then you grab it and pull it out and then you eat it. And it's not that interesting.
But you did it.
But I did it.
That's all that counts. I would have done it too if I was there. So I like it. All right. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
If I could have a superpower, perception.
Okay.
I just, the power of, I know that sounds like sort of a weird answer. I just think so much confusion and degradation of relationships and connections happen because you don't understand each other well. And so if I could have the power of perception to give me a leg up in connecting with people and building better relationships, it's a win.
I like that one. That may be the first time I've heard that one. I like that. I do.
That's so funny. I did not expect that question. So that's just.
There you go. That's what we're about at this show. All right.
That's right.
If you could pick one song to represent your life, what would it be?
Oh, geez. Erika, I can't remember the names of songs. So can I just make up a name? What's that?
You said you want to sing it for us?
No, because I can't remember words, and I can't, for some reason that's like, it's a thing. So if I had to say, was it to represent my life?
Yeah.
Is that what we said? It would be something really upbeat and motivating and would make you want to get up and dance. And it would have the word adventure and inspiration and like wonder. Like I love to wonder at the world. Like this is amazing. And this is amazing. And that over there, that's amazing too. Like I love putting myself in situations where there's newness and cool things to look at and stuff. So That's a terrible answer, but that's my answer.
I'll be waiting for your theme song when you write it.
Oh yeah, okay. That's when I'm going to write it.
It'll be so personal to you. I love it.
Yeah, I'm going to establish the baseline, and then we'll get some melodies going. Okay.
You need a dancer in your video.
Oh yes.
I'm all here.
Love it.
All right. The last one is a finish the statement. I am.
Okay. Secret. I do a word of the year, but I also do an I am statement. So I'm going to share my I am statement for this year. And my I am statement is I am vibrant and full of wonder. And so the vibrancy reminds me about my personal wellness, and the full of wonder reminds me to make sure I'm putting myself in situations that are new and different and where I can learn and I can get excited.
I love that. You are vibrant and full of wonder.
Yes. So statement for 2021.
Yes. I haven't done a statement before. I've done a word, but never a statement. So that's
Do you have a word for this year?
This year, my word is believe, because
I like it.
Like we were talking earlier, when you come from corporate, I didn't think I had value in where I was in my business last year. And so this year, I really want to believe that I have value, believe that I am doing what it is I'm supposed to be doing, and believe that what I'm doing is bringing value to everyone in the world.
Yeah, fantastic.
Now you got to tell me your word.
Oh, my word is bold. Because, most people who know me, they're like, you don't need that word. You're a bit of a bull in a china shop. So the reason I picked it is because, Erika, I found in certain aspects of my business, I was playing very small, where I would not ask for I would downplay my services. I would downplay what I was billing. I wouldn't ask for certain things and so I just am using that word. Like 2 days ago, I sent an email and it had bold all over it because I asked for way more than I normally do. And I just, it's helping me just move a little bit more assertively forward.
Love it. I love that. Bold and believe. That's what we're going to be this year.
Bold and believe.
And believe. Awesome. Well, Heather, people want to continue to follow you and just stay connected with you. Where can they find you?
So for anybody who's interested in the business aspect of what I do, LinkedIn is my baby. I love LinkedIn. I love the messaging platform there. And if you just have a question from today, find me on Instagram. I'm well fit and fed across all platforms. Obviously LinkedIn, I'm Heather Denniston, but I love Instagram too. So Instagram or LinkedIn is great.
Awesome. Perfect. We will have all that in the show notes, of course, for you guys. And we will also have the PDF that we talked about earlier, so you can get that there as well. So Heather, thank you for being here. You've been amazing.
Oh, Erika, thank you.
No problem. And audience, as always, thank you for being here. And head over to my website, Dr. Erika by Design, and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And we will see you next time. Bye, guys.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye.